Welcome back to the Black Roots of British History. Today we're stepping into the colour, sound, and power of one of Britain's most important cultural traditions and one of its most contested, Carnival. But to understand Carnival in Britain, we have to travel back across the Atlantic, across centuries, to the Caribbean, and even further to Africa. Carnival takes many forms across the Caribbean. In Trinidad and Tobago, it's Carnival, born from Canboulay, festivals where enslaved Africans mocked their oppressors with masquerade and drums. In Jamaica, it's Bacchanal, tied to both Lent and to dancehall. In Barbados, it's Crop Over, a sugar harvest festival. In St. Lucia and Grenada, it's Juve, a wild pre-dawn procession of paint, powder, and music. And in Grenada, we see this fierce tradition of jab jab. Now, the reason why I'm probably giving more focus on Grenada is because, number one, I'm half Canadian. I know that in quite recent times, like I've seen on TikTok, where people are like, you don't have to explain what jab jab is, what is jab jab, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour. I'm not going to give you an in-depth history, but it's just to kind of give you context. So the name jab jab comes from the French word diable, meaning devil. And these were slurs enslavers used against Africans. Us being grown, we might be small, but we're spicy, just like the nutmeg. And we turned the insult into art. So masqueraders will smear themselves into oil or molasses, wear horns, and will drag chains. So our message was simple but powerful. You call us devils? Let me for sure you. This performance actually echoed African traditions, such as like masking transformation satire while mocking the very tools of enslavement. And also, Grenada gave us the shortening mass, which are performers in bright clothes, bass, and ankle bells, chanting satirical verses. This resembles West African, I might get it right and I hope I don't, in Gone Good masquerades, where cloth, bells, and humour call on ancestors and critique power. So when you see Carnival, you're not just seeing feathers and soca, you're seeing African survival reshaped in the Caribbean, alive in every drumbeat and every costume. And when the Windrush generation crossed the Atlantic after the war, they brought this legacy with them. That's when Carnival began to take roots in Britain. But the Britain they found was pretty hostile. In the 58, the Notting Hill riots erupted while white mobs attacked Caribbean families for days. And to be honest, with the stuff that's going on right now, I can just see it. It's all happening again. I know it sounds a bit, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but look at all the stuff that's happening this weekend. And in 1959, the tragedy had deepened. So Kelso Cochrane was a 32-year-old Antiguan carpenter who was murdered in Notting Hill. To this day, there's never been any convictions, but the community knew what that meant. Justice was not for us. And yet out of grief came creativity. Like, it also reminds me of, in New Orleans, when people die and they have funerals, there's a lot of color, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of passion. And even like 9 nights, and we and at a funeral, yes, it's a somber moment, but we come with love and we come with the people. Like, that's us, this part of the African diaspora. We do that. We do that's part of our tradition. And come on, we've been oppressed enough. Should we be hard and done by? No. Like the saying, smile, it makes them mad. So Trinidadian activist Claudia Jones, who was a journalist, campaigner, and a visionary, turned to culture as resistance. So in 59, she organised the first Caribbean Carnival in Britain, which actually was at St Pancras Town Hall. The Caribbean singers were steel pans filled with the hall, and Claudia called it a way as to wash the taste of Notting Hill out of our mouths. So Carnival in Britain was born not as entertainment, but as survival. And soon it will spill into the streets. Fast forward to 1966, Carnival had moved outdoors. So community activists like Rhaune Laslett, he dreamed of a multicultural festival to unite her neighbourhood. And she also invited Caribbean residents, and they brought the music. So you had Sam King, who was a Jamaican RAF veteran and Windrush passenger, who helped organise and promote. Alongside Russell Henderson Steel Pan, Sam ensured that Caribbean rhythm was front and centre. Now, it was small, just a few hundred people, but it was powerful. Again, go back to another saying in Jamaica, what was small but with Taloa. The same streets that had scene rights now rang with drums, dancing, and colour. And over the next decade, the carnival grew. About 1973, under the guidance of Leslie Palmer, it transformed. Sound systems were added, mass bands became organised, crowds swelled into tens of thousands. And today, Notting Hill Carnival is the biggest European street festival with over 2 million over one weekend. A feast of feathers, bassline, jerk smoke, and freedom. But Notting Hill is only one part of our story. Across the country, other carnivals have taken root too. From north to south, carnivals become lifelines for Black communities, a place to celebrate, a place to resist, and a place to be visible. The Leeds West Indian Carnival started in 1967. It was founded by Arthur France. It's the oldest authentic Caribbean carnival in Europe, and around 150,000 people come each year, and it pumps billions into the local economy. Then you have St Paul's in Bristol, which started in 1968. And it once drew about 100,000 visitors with an economic impact of 5 million. However, today it often runs on reduced budgets and sometimes welcomes up to 60,000 people, but it's still quite a good turnout. Then you have Manchester Caribbean Carnival, which started in 1979 in Moss Side, and it usually draws around 30 to 50,000 people. But in 2020, it nearly collapsed before an emergency fund saved it. Then you have Handsworth in Birmingham, which brings around 20 to 30,000 people get together in the Midlands every summer. You've got Luton International Carnival, which was once Europe's biggest one-day carnival, peaked at about 150,000 in the 1990s, but now, sadly, due to cuts, it's gone down closer to about 30 to 40,000. And the list goes on. You have Liverpool International Carnival, Derby Caribbean Carnival, Huddersfield, Reading, Northampton, Croydon. And these carnivals, well, most of them have been around since the 60s and 70s. Fortunately, Huddersfield has been repeatedly cancelled since 2018, which is quite sad. Hackney Carnival, I think Hackney Carnival started about years ago, but they had plans to have it every year, but they said, due to budgets, you can have it every other year. And since COVID, I don't feel there's been Hackney Carnival. But, I don't really fuck with tokens. If you put them all together, the regional carnivals draw hundreds of thousands of people every year, and it generates tens of millions for local economies. Yet many survive only on short-term grants and volunteer labour. Notting Hill grabs the headlines because of how big it is. But if Bristol, Huddersfield or Reading vanish quietly, erasure is just as devastating. But Carnival still is joy, still colour, still survival. But it is, as I said, it's under siege. So this year, Notting Hill Carnival was almost cancelled. There was £1 million bailout from City Hall and Council saved it. And then another 232,000 went to urgent safety. And in the central government, they gave nothing. But this is after the tragic stabbing of Sheer Maximum, that safety fears also grew. And there were these reviews that warned of this dangerous crowd density, with some politicians comparing Carnival to a potential Hillsborough disaster. And on the back of that came this On the Brink report declaring Carnival as, quote, unsustainable. What do they suggest? Ticket it, cap it, move it to Hyde Park. Organisers said no. Those measurements would strip Carnival of its community soul, and I completely stand by it because it brings community together. It's free. You can just go down there, travel, walk, bike, hike, whatever. You don't need a ticket to go in there. I understand the safety aspect, but still, there has to be a way around it. There has to be a way around it. Because if I was to compare another big event, which is Glastonbury, you would see kind of the two, and you'll see, I'd see there's a bit of a hole in their argument when it comes to safety in crime. Because, okay, let's compare it, right? Notting Hill Carnival has 2 million people over 2 days. Glastonbury, 5 days, 210,000 people. Arrests, now again, you've got to think about how many people and also the comparison. So Glastonbury 2025 had about 31 arrests, and that's like 1 per 6,700 people. Notting Hill, on the other hand, yes, there were 528, and if you want to give or take the ones run up to it, which is 1 per 3,800. Now, in the wide scheme of things, they're statistically similar, but the stories told, worlds apart. Glastonbury is ticketed, ruled, fenced. Carnival is free and urban and open to everyone. But to me, here's the truth, right? Glastonbury is overwhelmingly white. Carnival is overwhelmingly Black, brown, Caribbean, African. Yep. When Glastonbury is celebrated as its cultural jewel and Carnival is painted as this public order problem, to me, it's not about numbers. It's about race, it's about power, and it's about class. And, this isn't even new. Back in 1959, when Kelso Cochrane was murdered and justice was denied, the message was clear. Black lives were disposable. Today, when Carnival is demonised while Glastonbury is praised, that double standard is still alive. Like, no one had actually even mentioned, right, with Glastonbury, you can see I'm getting a bit heated. With Glastonbury, their ticket price kept going up every single time. Oh, have you seen how they leave that field when they come back? It look nasty. Nasty, 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 nasty. And the reason why the population is going down is because the ticket prices are going up. So what's going to happen? So say, for example, they use the model of a ticketed model for Notting Hill. That would kill it because every single year it'll go down and down and down. Now, there's a lady, and I forgot her name, and she does social commentary. Shout out to her. I love her social commentary. And she made a really good suggestion, which is if there was a sort of a Caribbean Carnival Association that was built, that was made up of the different carnivals across the UK, they get organised, they can sponsor and fund each other's carnivals, make sure they can get fundraisers out there, they can get the money coming in, they can get people to generate, to get money through different ways. We have a lot of Black and ethnic minority and white allies who will be more than happy to help fund Carnival. Doesn't matter which Carnival it is. And again, that's how we need to do it. We need to come to the government and say, hey, we don't need your money. We're good. We can do our own. It's a similar thing with when the slaves were not allowed to join the masquerade that the white slave owners were doing. They weren't allowed to do that. So we did our own. I think her name's Chantel. And she's a social commentary. We got to think about what's next. Because every year, Carnival's facing these policing bills, these stricter licensing, these shrinking budgets, and Notting Hill makes the news all the time. And we always make the news for, Notting Hill Carnival, the rest happened before. Like, it's before the Carnival. What's that got to do with Carnival? We made 400 million for the local community. So again, our efforts are really not being identified. What's scary is we could end up being like another Huddersfield. As I said, Huddersfield was once 40,000 strong. They haven't ran Huddersfield since 2015. St Paul's in Bristol was once 100,000. They now struggle at 60. And even Luton, they used to have 150. Now they're running at probably like 50,000. And this is how our culture will disappear. Not all at once, but it's about 3,000 small cuts. Because to me, Carnival is to the Caribbean community as Christmas is to others. Imagine if Christmas was nearly cancelled in Leeds, Bristol and London every year. That's what Carnival faces. Like, can you imagine the big hole it would leave if Carnival was gone? And I don't care what people. This is part of who we are. This is part of British culture and anything else. Because what's going to happen if nothing changes? Britain may one day say Carnival is something we used to have. What we're going to be having, Glastonbury. What I love about Carnival is the people in the area is, they can open their house, they can make their money, people use their toilet for okay, it's £2, but it gives them a little bit of money. But anyway, I digress. Carnival is more than just feathers and bass. It's centuries of history alive in the streets, from Africa to the Caribbean, from Grenada's Jab Jab to Trinidad's Mass, from the Windrush ships to Notting Hill. Carnival, survival, defiance and joy. And it was built by visionaries. Claudia Jones, who gave us Carnival After Rights. Sam King, the Windrush veteran, who brought it outdoors. Rhaune Laslett, who united communities. Leslie Palmer, who expanded it into Europe's biggest festival. Yes, Carnival faces challenges. But every August bank holiday, when millions take to the streets in feathers, sequins, oil, paint, whistles and drums, that's proof that Carnival is still alive. It's still powerful and it's still ours. To me, Carnival is the rhythm of resilience. It's the colour of culture. It's the sound of freedom. It's the heartbeat of generations. African, Caribbean, British, dancing together in defiance and in joy. Carnival isn't fading. It's thriving. And as long as the drums beat, the whistles blow, and the people march, Carnival will always live on. Because history isn't just in books. It's in our roots, it's in our streets, and it's in our Carnival. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to follow me on social media for more stories, clips, and updates.